Welcome back, everyone, to Diary of an Empath. My next guest is Brenden Durell, a renowned intimacy expert who you may have seen on Too Hot to Handle. Brenden is also an embodiment coach and healer who helps people reconnect with their sacred masculine and feminine energies, heal through intimacy, and create conscious relationships. He's known for his transformative retreats and powerful work in helping others align with their true purpose. Brenden, welcome to the show.
How you doing? How you doing? Thank you for having me, and thank you for extending this invitation for us just to jam out.
Yes, I'm excited. So I'm curious for you, why do you do what you do? And how do you define your mission?
I do what I do because I do it for myself first. That's the only reason why that I do it. If I didn't do it for myself, I wouldn't be doing the do, as they say. It just feels good for me. And my biggest focus is enhancing my quality of life, not just physically, but emotionally, spiritually, and mentally. That's why I do this. And if I can support anybody else in feeling any better in any one of those areas, then for me, it's a win for my life and my legacy.
Tell me about your background. What do I need to understand about your upbringing and who you are to understand the man that I'm looking at today?
I come from a highly athletic background. Sports was a big part of my family. I played basketball and baseball my whole life. I ended up playing university baseball, and then I played professional baseball in the States and then around the world. And I say that is the epitome of who I am today in this work, because there's something that I will never give up on myself, and I will never give up on people. And I feel that comes from having a sports background. It's like, what's left in the tank? Oh, it's almost nothing. All right, bet we can work with that. So I bring that mentality into this work. There's times, and I would say I know how I evolved in my journey, because it used to only be push, 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 push. Now it's like I pick my moments when it's time to push and when it's time to push to rest. So I feel merging my background, my past, and now is who I am today.
But how did you get into sports? Like, how did you make that transition from sports to this spiritual healer who now works with people for evolvement? Because that's such a big difference, right? Like for me, for example, I relate to a lot of what you said, because I was in the Marine Corps. And when people know who I am now, they're like, how did you go from the Marines to what you do now? And for me, it was like this self-evolving process where I had to, same mindset. It was like, go, go, go. And I saw so much shit happen to people when I was in the military that it really transitioned my life into wanting to help others. And just like you, kind of knowing when to heal, when to work, and then when to slow down. So what was that transition like for you?
For me, it was seamless, because even at a young age, I knew everything was everything. What I mean by that is everything's connected. And there was a time in my life where sports, baseball specifically, felt like home to me. And then there was a day that it didn't feel like home anymore. And then supporting people, supporting myself, being curious about life and spirituality, that now felt like home. So for me, it was a seamless transition into just chasing the feeling of what home feels like within my heart.
It's crazy how alignment happens sometimes. Like sometimes you have to skill stack, right? To like learn these skills to get to that next centerfold of whatever that life looks like for you. One thing I notice with the clients that I work with now is that there's a lot of stigma specifically around men and their healing process. Going through the Marine Corps, I noticed that like the big emphasis was, pain is weakness, leave in the body. That's literally what they say. If you go get help, you're weak, right? Mental health is weak. And I feel like that message is really profound, especially with men. You should be masculine at all times, and masculinity looks like A, B, and C. Why do you think there's such a stigma, and how do men start to build that relationship with themselves that allows that healing process to happen? That's a big question.
Yeah, it's a lot of layers to that question, and I don't think we have
Yeah.
enough time to cover that, and enough experts in this field to cover that. My bros and everything out there who get into this deeply with me. But I would say the first thing is keeping it real with self. Just because it's one thing to tell people, to tell men, take the mask off, and it's like that's a really hard thing to do. So I always say you got to start taking the mask off within yourself, even if it's just you by yourself, and keeping it real. Like, would I actually do that? Like, why do I want to do that? Like, being actually curious on why I say yes and no to things. I feel if men can step into the space and be like, yeah, I own that. I own that I like that. I own that I don't like that. I own that I respond this way in those scenarios. I feel that's where we start, just keeping it real with where we are in the moment.
So, porn. Do you feel like porn is helpful or harmful? Because I always ask anytime I have a man on this podcast who's in the healing space, I always like to get their opinion on this. I know that you know Danny and Preston and Garen. And, I really feel like everybody has their different opinions on porn, but is porn creating this unrealistic belief system when it comes to what relationships should be like? Is it taking away from relationships?
Absolutely, it has. And I'm not going to say porn is bad because I don't believe anything is bad in that type of way. I believe what's bad is not having boundaries in the realms of it. It's just like I'm huge into cacao, I'm huge into chocolate. Like that's like a love of my life, working in the farms with chocolate and making different things. And again, it's like if I just ate chocolate for breakfast, lunch, dinner with snacks in between, I'd probably have diabetes. I'd probably be really unhealthy because it's too much of it. However, if I have 1 cup of cacao a day, then that's healing for me, you know? So I share this because I feel it's the boundaries and the reason why people use it, use porn. It's to get away from stuff, to get away from realities that they just don't feel comfortable in, that it feels really hard for them to cope. So I feel when porn is leaned into to take somebody's mind off of the real issue, I feel that's when it is an issue. However, I know beautiful, happy married couples who watch porn together, and I also have friends in the industry who make women directed porn, which is really sensual and beautiful and like art. So it's a very layered conversation, but I would say it depends how the user uses the realm of porn in regards to their life.
So you work a lot with couples and relationships. What is your take on some of the biggest problems that people are facing in relationships? And are there solutions to them? Are there easy solutions? Because I see you on like Too Hot to Handle doing these mirror exercises. And one thing I noticed with some of the people on the show, and I'm like, man, like I felt like a lot of them really lacked. Maybe it's age, maybe it's maturity, maybe it's just like really lacking the understanding of their own core value systems and what they're looking for in a partner. But what do you see? Like, what are some common denominators that come up for you?
Yeah, so in speaking like with my personal experience with dating and romance and intimacy, and to be clear too, when I speak about intimacy, I don't speak about romantic intimacy. I speak about intimacy with life, intimacy with darkness, with chaos, with the stuff that makes us feel like we're in rock bottom. How can we become intimate in those moments and learn from them, gain wisdom? So when I speak about intimacy, it's all encompassing. Romantic intimacy is definitely a part of it. However, I always go into the aspects of self first. And as far as themes, I was just having a conversation about this the other day with one of my really good friends, and um, the notion of what relationship looks like, the notion of relating, partnership, it's so different than when we were born and how we were raised with our parents. And I feel like everything else, it's evolving. So I truly don't feel nobody has it figured out. But the name of the game is just to be consistent, just like going to the gym. Like that's literally the same thing in relating. It's like you're going to the gym. Oh, I learned something new. Let me implement that. So I just feel a lot of the ideas that we've been fed on how relationships should be, how it should look, I feel that's a constant in a constant clash with where we are today and how we're all evolving.
Intimacy for some people is really hard, right? Like I think, growing up, I don't know how old you are, but I was born in 1985. So we didn't have social media until I was like 16, 17. Like I'm not old, y'all. This is just technology has really evolved in the last like 15 years. But we had like MySpace and Mihente and like blackplanet.com. Listen,
Yeah.
that's what it
Yeah.
was, right?
I had all those
And
accounts.
oh yeah, same. So, we used to meet more people in person. So that was very new. Intimacy the way that I defined it growing up was sex. That's what I thought it was. That's what I was taught. And now being 38, being a therapist and in this realm of healing myself, I'm learning that there's different types of intimacy. I'm curious for you, what are the important types of intimacy? What do we need to know about them? And how can we get stronger, especially with our partners, our friendships, when it comes to being more intimate?
Yeah. And also, I'm an 80s baby too. I'm 87, so 80s babies out here. I'm from that
Okay,
time.
okay.
Um,
Nice. You're a little
um,
younger than me, but not by much.
I would say, so for me, my background also is in the realms of Tantra and traditional Tantra, and not New Age spirituality Tantra that's sex based. Like Tantra, that the focal point of it teaches discipline. And even before, let's say we're talking about Tantra, there's two parts. There's red Tantra, and then there's white Tantra. Um, and white Tantra is about self cultivation within self, um, being intimate with myself emotionally, and literally being curious about everything that makes me me without judgment. And that is the practice. And then red tantra is when you come into the space with somebody and both of you have the tools and you're equipped from the white tantric space. So to be able to be sovereign, self-sufficient, emotionally advanced, all of those things. So when it comes to relating and all of this today, um, intimacy, a huge part of it is self first. And you have this baseline of how you relate, how you respond, et cetera, et cetera. And then what's also really important is that, okay, once a person might feel sufficient in themselves to be able just to relate with somebody, like some of my clients, they're in a space at times where they're like, I just can't even go on dates because it just doesn't feel good for them. But when they're in that space, it's highly important when they're in that space to be able to date. It's highly important that they do have those interactions, they do have those encounters, because I'm a firm believer too that we can't be the best version of ourselves alone. Like we need other people to be in the arena with us. Like we have to. And I'm a big advocate for this too, because most of my life I've been solo dolo, traveling the world and just being accountable to myself and not really having to consider other people's feelings or emotions because I was on the move all the time. But then now, as I'm aging, I'm in a beautiful connection now. It's I'm not just accountable to myself. I'm growing because I'm relating with somebody else. So I feel that's the big step on intimacy. One, self first, curious, why am I the way that I am? And then two, okay, I know the way that I am. How is this going to work in conjunction with somebody else?
So intimacy for you is more than just sex, right? It's that relationship with yourself. If we are talking about in the lens of sexual energy and somebody is trying to foster more intimacy with their partner, where do they start?
Yeah, asking questions. Asking questions, just like when we were told when we were younger, no question is stupid, no question is dumb. Like the worst question not asked. What is it? The worst question you could ask is a question not asked. Something like that. You know, like the old saying they used to say. It's asking questions, constantly being curious about somebody, and this is also the basis within Tantra and yogic teachings is curiosity. So I feel with people wanting to deepen that, it's a lot of couples, like you can get into the space. Like, when's the last time you actually asked your partner, like, what's her favorite color or what's his favorite color? You know, like, when's the last time you done that? Like, oh, what do you actually like to eat for breakfast? Are you a pancake girl? Are you an egg girl? Like, are you both? You know, like these little details, it might seem mundane and it might seem quote unquote not spiritual, but they're so spiritual because it's presence and it's me literally making room in my mind and my heart and using the power of my words to learn about you.
I agree with that. I think too that, it creates safety in a relationship. And for a lot of people who have maybe gone through childhood feeling unsafe, navigating relationships can feel unsafe at times if it's like, I don't know what this person's intentions are, or they could hurt me. And I think asking those questions, I ask my clients a lot. And one thing that I look back at, like my old relationships, and one thing I never did was, have you ever asked the questions of like, what kind of intimacy is important to your partner? there are actually different types, right? Like, creative intimacy, time spent intimacy, sexual intimacy. What is important to you and why? Because if you don't know these things, if you're not asking, then you're assuming. And that assumption may not be reality. I also see a lot of people who, because of trust that has been broken, they have a harder time fostering that connection and those intimacy and relationships. For somebody who is dealing with trust, whether it's from their past or within their current relationship, how do they start to regain not only the trust in relationships, but with themselves?
Yeah. And from personal experience, this one is specifically hits home because um, the fear that I used to have from intimacy, I had more fear and there was more pain of being alone because I didn't open up. So I had fear whether I was alone and pain, and then I had pain and fear whether I was in a connection, being afraid to be vulnerable. So I had to
So
get
did
real
you
with
avoid
myself.
relationships? Did you
Um,
avoid them?
no, I did not avoid them. I leaned into them, but then I got to a point where I was like, okay, this is going a little too deep. I don't feel comfortable. And then, bye. That was my thing. And then I realized either way, I was experiencing pain, whether I wanted to be by myself or let somebody truly see me. So I got to the point where I was just like, you know what? I'd rather be with the pain and discomfort of somebody getting to know me than me being with the pain and discomfort of just being alone because I'm afraid to lean in.
Yeah, that reminds me of like fearful attachment. Not diagnosing you with anything at all, but that's me, right? Like when I was younger, especially in like my early 30s, maybe even 20s, I wanting the relationship so bad, but then it getting really close and the fear of this person can hurt me, or if I get too close or let this person see these like really vulnerable parts of me, like taking my armor off and here I am, you can fucking stab me, you can hurt me, and then I'm fucked, right? And so it's easier to maintain and grab that control and be like, I'm good, right? And that mirror, like looking at yourself in the mirror and really understanding accountability, I think was the hardest part. You did a mirror exercise in Too Hot to Handle, and I'm curious for you, how does somebody start to do this type of exercise and how can it benefit them to gain some self-awareness?
Yeah. And it's really simple too. Like mirror work has been around for ages and everybody has their variation to it, their flavor of it. For me, it's just keeping things as simple as possible. Like my background's in baseball. When I played baseball, there's a saying, keep it simple. Stop trying to overcomplicate it. Just like life. That's why I love baseball. And with the mirror exercises, keep it simple. Like we're always going to the bathroom or somewhere to brush our teeth or to wash our hands. And we're always in there. And then in those moments, even if we're brushing our teeth, a lot of times we're looking at the mirror at ourselves, looking around our body, or washing our hands or like this. And then we're looking up, looking at ourselves. There's always an opportunity to create intimacy with self. And so for me, I remind myself to actually just look at myself 10 seconds, 15 seconds. I see you, bro. I see you and I love you. Acknowledging myself because deep down, I also desire acknowledgement, naturally in my human coding. So in this case, it's like giving myself those things. And it seems like it's such a simple thing, but in those moments, it's like, no, I truly do love you and I appreciate you. And you doing this thing life and showing up every day, even the willingness to want to brush your teeth, want to wash your hands. I'm proud of you, bro. So doing mirror exercises can always happen every single day and every moment.
It almost sounds like it's like you're refathering yourself, right? And then that's big for me because I'll pass a mirror and I'm just going to be open. I'm mirror checking, like, okay, how do my glutes look? How do my legs
Yeah,
look?
naturally. Yeah.
Right? Like in the gym, like let me make sure. But I've never stopped to actually like look and be like, I'm grateful for the legs that I have because I can walk, right? And shifting that mindset. And I think that's so important and valuable because we're in a society of social media and we naturally compare ourselves. It's in our DNA. We wouldn't survive if we didn't compare ourselves to some extent. But is comparisons helping us or is it hurting us? I'm curious your opinion on that.
Yeah. So, and also I appreciate you being vulnerable and sharing that because we all do that in the mirror. Like we look at what's not working as opposed to what is working. That's just our natural behavior. And this goes back to my playing days. It's I used to work out from a place of lack, from a place of not being good enough, from a place of, if I don't do this thing, I'll probably be cut and not have a job. If I don't do this thing, that dude's going to take my job. So every single rep and set, it was like pushing up the barbell, like, fuck you, you suck. Like you can't do this. Like literally motivating myself from pain, from fear, from demeaning myself. So I had to learn to switch that. It's like, okay, yeah, like, no, I do love having a chiseled chest. I do love having a six pack. I do love having all these things, but I can also have them from love, not from a lack of. So I also, in the realms of vanity, it's like, yeah, we can also love ourselves. We can be like, damn, you look good today. I look good today. Like you can feel yourself, but also it's like the curiosity piece, going back to the Tantra piece. Okay, I'm this strong. I feel this good. Can I get stronger? Can I feel even better? So I'm motivated because of that thing, not because I'm not good enough, but because I know that there's more potential in there.
Did you guys know that I'm not only a therapist, but I'm also a coach and a professional tarot reader? Now, it's not exactly me hovering over a crystal ball telling your future. It's a way to connect with your guides on life issues such as career and love and spirituality. And sometimes people need one-on-one coaching to help them through breakups, toxic relationships, healing the mother wound, their spiritual path, or navigating tools as an empath. So I do all of these things to help my clients pursue life and decisions and understand themselves. So if you are interested in one-on-one coaching or a tarot reading, click the link below to get started. Okay, back to the podcast. That's so important. I feel like a lot of people, and I put myself in this category, operate or have operated from a place of fear. If I don't make this much money, I may lose my house. And if I lose my house, this might happen. If I don't, go to the gym 4 or 5 times a week, I might gain weight and nobody's going to want to be with me, right? No one's going to be attracted to me. If I don't have this many people on my podcast, I'm not going to get good ratings and I'm not going to get validation, right? I 100% can put myself in that category of having had these thoughts and still having these thoughts to this day. And I hear what you're saying, like, come from a place of abundance, not from a place of lack. But how does somebody start to actually unravel that? Like if I was your client, right? And I was saying, listen, Brenden, like I really want to, I hear what you're saying, but where do I start?
Yeah, I'd say this is where we make the small commitments, So one of my clients now currently, she's amazing and she wants to improve her health, her physical health. And I'm just like, she has a desk job. I'm like, do you walk? Like, no, I don't walk. Okay, cool. So every single morning, you're going to go for a 15-minute walk minimum before you get to the computer and you work. And we're going to stick with that for literally 1 month. You're not going to miss a day. So starting small goals like that and nothing else, just get up and walk every morning. I don't care if it's raining, if it's snowing, just get up and just go walk. You can do more than 15 minutes, but minimum 15 minutes. And as she's doing this, she started noticing her mental health getting better, started noticing her stamina getting better, started noticing how more joyful she was to start her day at work before it started. So building trust and confidence with self, I feel, is so huge. And when people can be in the space of like, I don't know where to start, I don't know where to begin, we start small. Go for a walk, like go get yourself a Nike watch or Apple Watch and just literally start tracking your steps throughout the day. Little things like that, because it's about trust. Like we all want to have something we can confide in, and it's internal and external. And in this case, we have to also create internal things to confide in ourselves with. Okay. I know you can't walk for me in the morning, so I have to walk for myself in the morning. And then once she conquers this and she starts feeling how good it feels, there's going to be something in her to be like, okay, what's next?
Intimacy, emotional vulnerability versus emotional availability. What are some of the signs that, for women that are listening, especially, that a man may not be emotionally available and that intimacy may not be there? Because I feel like a lot of people confuse sex with intimacy, right? Like that's just it. If it's good sex, this must be a good relationship. But all of these other red flags are there. And it's like, oh, I'm just so confused. Well, what's good and what's bad in the relationship? And they really confuse that. So how does somebody distinguish when a man is emotionally available versus just being emotionally vulnerable with someone?
I feel presence and consistency. And speaking from my space as a man, it's like, if I'm fully not invested or interested in somebody, I'm not going to be present and really available in messaging and calling and responding. Like I'm just not, like, naturally. And I know there's other people out there who just, they just don't touch their phones. But in this day and age, it's like, even if you're a person, let's say, who homesteads and you're never on your phone and you're out there doing your thing, there's still a thing called communication. So even if people are extremely busy, there's still ways to communicate. Like, I care about somebody. I'm going to check in with them, drop in with them, let them know I'm working for 3 more hours. I'll be off my phone, but I'll hit you up as soon as I'm done, and sticking to that. So I say in this way with flags and looking at possible, green flags, is how engaged somebody is with you, how they communicate, even if they're really busy. Like, I feel that consistency, that is the biggest telltale of, like, there is potential here.
Yes, consistency. Like, do their words match their actions? Because, and it's no judgment against anybody. I've been there before, but I feel like there's a lot of people who confuse that. Like, well, he says he's interested in me and he shares all of these like vulnerabilities and these traumas, and we just click, like trauma bond, right? Like, we understand each other. But is there more to a relationship than just trauma bonding, right? Do you feel like trauma bonding can be dangerous, or do you think it could be helpful?
I feel initially trauma bonding can be very beneficial too, because, we relate on this thing. However, just relating on something isn't sustainable for a beautiful, nurturing romance and et cetera going forward. So in this case, it's like, okay, we relate on, let's say, both of us being abandoned and being left out or being stonewalled, being ghosted. We relate on that. Okay, now I know this happened in your past. This happened in my past. I'm going to do everything in my power to not even let you think that I'm doing that to you. So then this means to me that you value communication. You value when somebody, says they're going to do something and they do it, instead of just not hearing from them. So I feel this is really important, that it's like, yeah, we trauma bonded, but then there's a higher responsibility because I know your fucking traumas. I know them.
Mhm.
So I have a responsibility to really step up and nurture you in ways, not coddle you, not shelter you, not keep you and shelter you away from pain, because it's inevitable that I will trigger you. But it's like, I'm not going to intentionally do things that I know are going to make you anxious and really bring up stuff for you.
I'm going to ask you a question that is totally subjective, right? Everybody's going to have different opinions on this, but I think it's an important question to ask. Do you feel like monogamy truly exists, or is it bullshit?
In what kind of context?
So, monogamy in the context of this, heterosexual relationships, a man and a woman being able to have a relationship only with each other for the rest of time, for the rest of their lives, and not having any other sexual relationships with other people. Is that possible, or is that just not in our DNA?
Definitely possible, because there's so much evidence out there that it is possible, and there's also so much evidence out there that it isn't possible. It purely depends on the person and the goals of the person's life, their dharma, and what they desire in this life. I truly feel, because let's say non-monogamy works for so many people and they grow in that way, and then monogamy, people grow in that way. So let's say for me personally, like, I grow better in monogamy because I can't run. Like I could be a runner like my whole life and just be tired, and that's it from running. Monogamy offers me opportunities to really go deep with somebody, but I'm not going to run. Yes, I can always choose and I have sovereignty to leave. But in this case, it's like, I know that I'm meant to be in this situation to grow, and some people feel that about non-monogamy. So I don't feel there's a finite answer to that, because there's evidence that supports both. But if we're talking about, let's say, emotionally and mentally, and let's say the notion of, like, I call it toxic relating, where it's like, you better never have eyes for another person, think another woman's beautiful, and it's like, that's bullshit. Like, no, people are beautiful, women are beautiful, men are beautiful, people are beautiful. So to live in a relationship that somebody says, oh, you can't admire somebody's beauty, I feel that that could be very challenging for so many people in expressing. However, I feel communication is the biggest thing that comes to it.
Yeah, I'm really split on this. I'm a very monogamous person like you. So I'm Libra, double Capricorn. For me, when I'm in something, I'm in it. And it's very hard for me to even dating. Like, I don't date more than one person because it's just not my style. However, I also have this side of me that recognizes that, like, as a human species, when we're looking at evolution, we never really were meant to have just one relationship, right? Like men kind of spread their seed and women would gravitate towards who was the better hunter and who could keep them alive. And then we have this like thing of marriage that all of a sudden came into the world with religion, et cetera. So I always question because again, I'm not putting statistics out there, but I do feel that men cheat more. And I wonder why. Do you feel that if a man cheats, and just in the context of a heterosexual relationship, can a relationship come back from that? Or is it once a cheater, always a cheater?
Yeah. Also, want to put out there, I feel both men and women cheat because it just looks different on men. And I feel also men get caught because men aren't as
That's true.
thoughtful when it comes to cheating, and the more like, yeah, just oof, like when they do stuff. But I feel women are also very promiscuous in the way. So I don't know the statistics, but I feel it's not as a big of a gap as we may think it is when it comes to emotional infidelity and physical infidelity. With men, and I want to share a little bit before about, let's say in my ancestry's from West Africa, like my mother's from Puerto Rico, and I have Taino Arawak blood in me, and my father, like my lineage goes back to Yoruba Ifa, and even before that to different cultures, and um, a big part of safety within a culture back then was having a harem for chiefs. And chiefs and harems were actually healthy parts of the community because it meant power, it meant safety, it meant the legacy is going to live on. And naturally, this is just how it was. And that was in the DNA. And then when colonization began to happen, they brought in this Christian Judeo. You have your one partner, and that's it for the rest of your life. They just brought it in. So I do feel there are things, and I feel we are caught internally within our DNA coding as well at times that, yeah, there are desires in that way. And then it's also desires for this as well, for safety. So I do believe that there's both. And I do believe men have that. Now, when it comes to cheating, I feel a lot of cheating and infidelity from men today. A lot of it I feel is not just purely from it's not from a biological stance. It's from because they haven't looked at their shit stance. You know, that's where it's coming from. Like they keep running because they see every woman as their mom, and they keep running from that one and go to the next woman, and thinking that that's going to be the answer. That's going to be the subconscious mommy that's going to save them. I feel that's where a lot of men are today when it comes to infidelity.
And nobody wants to sleep with their parents and nobody wants to sleep with their kid. Like I tell people this and they don't quite understand. And I'm like, listen, if you're mothering someone and nagging, and listen, you probably got good reason to do it, not even taking that out. And as a man, if you have your spouse who's constantly kind of on your ass to do things, and again, there might be good reasons on both sides, but nobody wants to sleep and have this great sexual relationship with somebody who's parenting them and with when you're feeling parented. It just doesn't work, right? Long term, it's not sustainable.
No, it's not
So I
sustainable.
do, and I agree, there are a lot of women who are not necessarily faithful either. I just wonder if a man, once he cheats, in the context of a man or a woman, can the relationship be healed? Can we say, like, okay, you know what, you cheated, let's try to work on this again, and there be trust established back in the relationship? Have you seen it with your clients?
I've seen it with people for sure. I know how I'm made up. It just wouldn't happen. Like it just for me, there's just something, and you know how we all have our shit, and we're like, oh yeah, I'm gonna heal this and heal that. There's just some things in this life I'm just not willing to heal. Maybe next life I'll heal that thing of like regaining trust and then opening up to intimacy. But I feel it depends on the person because if let's say if it happened to me, then it's like nah, I'm done. I'm one and done. Like that's just who I am. But for other people, it might be a thing. It's like yeah, I can forgive and we can move on. I do feel there will be an everlasting ripple, you know, for sure within something. But I do feel commitment and love and loyalty and consistency. And I do believe that people can change and they do change as well. So again, I'm split on that because I feel it depends on the person and the genetic makeup and the actual unique situation that the people are in.
I think it's rare. I'm going to be honest. I don't see it for most people. I feel like if you're just that open to just cheating and not having respect for your partner, I don't think that there's very many people who will absolutely say without a doubt that it's not going to happen again, even if they really want to. I do think it's rare. That's my opinion. Um, we hear a lot about the masculine and the feminine. I want to hear your take on that because I see social media getting it wrong, in my opinion, a lot. I think that people confuse the feminine and masculine energies with feminine and masculine gender roles, right? Like, if you're going to be feminine, you should be submissive, cooking, not being confrontational. And that's kind of like this definition of what the feminine energy is supposed to look like via TikTok, right? Do you think that that's what it is defined as, or how do you define masculine and feminine, and why is that important in relationships?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I want to say like it was a huge trigger for me, and it still is sometimes about seeing social media accounts talking about what the feminine is supposed to be, what the masculine is supposed to be, and I'm just like, shut the fuck up. Like it just, I'm
That's how I
tired of it.
feel.
It's like seeing some like European bros been with one woman his whole life saying this is what women want. Bro, you only been with one woman. Like, what are you talking about? I get it, but also it's like, come on. And then vice versa, like how women say like this is how a man should be. So I totally agree with you with the gender role thing. And I feel like from a masculine standpoint, because I have most of my clients are women, and 85% of my clients are women. And when they come in the space, they're like, yeah, I've been such in masculine mode and I keep doing this. I'm burnt out. And I'm like, you're not in masculine mode. I said, you're in survival mode. There's a big distinction
Mm,
between both of them.
yes.
I said survival mode is not being masculine. Like, I get it why you feel burnt out, and it's because you feel like nobody got your back, like you're doing everything on your own. But what you're feeling is not masculinity. Like what you're feeling is scarcity. You're feeling scared. You're tired, and just even in that, they're like, oh my God, you're right. Like my nervous system is shot. Like this is not masculinity because for me. Doing everything, even as a man, doing everything doesn't feel good for me, and I'm a man. It wears me down as well. Like I love the communal aspect of being supported and being loved on and being acknowledged and all those things. So I feel the notion of masculine and feminine is so layered, but also I feel just like how Tantra has been really defamed in a lot of ways with neo spirituality, I feel the notion of masculinity and femininity has also been going down a weird path in a lot of ways because it all comes back to somebody's desires and their opinions on what a man should be and what a woman should be. And I do, like you said, feel it just brings up their gender roles. It brings up like I see some accounts where they're talking about specific roles of masculinity and femininity, and like they're literally describing Disney fucking movies.
Right. It's not realistic.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And not only is it not realistic, I feel like there's some of them that has like some internal misogyny written in it, right? Like as a woman, you should be if you're too career oriented, then you're too masculine. No man cares about that. No man cares about the fact that you're super career oriented. And if you're too bossy or if you're too controlling in certain areas, then no man's going to
Spoken
want
and all
that.
that. Yeah. It's bullshit. Like it's absolutely hogwash. Like it's no, and it's like how we were talking about the notion of relationships evolving. I feel the notion of what a woman is and what a man is evolving too, just like everything does because of our environment, you know? Like nobody's hunting anymore. Nobody's farming anymore. So then what is it truly like what are we supposed to do? You know, like is femininity based on how beautiful a woman can show her ass in a social media post? Is masculinity like someone like a biohacking bro, like how he does all his cold plunges and stuff? Is that masculinity? You know, it's like what truly is it? Because I don't feel it's that. Like when the deeper that I go, I'm actually about to go into the Amazon rainforest on Tuesday for my retreat, and I love going back every single time because for me, being in the jungle is one of the largest examples of what masculine and femininity is, and it's not either. It's not black or white. There's just this primordial energy that takes form in different ways in different places. Because in nature, let's say a beautiful jaguar, she doesn't know that she's a feminine. She doesn't know that she's a woman, or you know, she doesn't know that. Like a male jaguar, he doesn't know he's a male. They're just doing their jaguar thing, and then when it comes down to mating, they assume their roles, and then they create more pups. But in the reality, it's like they're not out there being, I'm a woman, I'm a man, I'm not doing this. It's like it just is, you know, it just is. And to me, there is no justification on what is man and what is woman.
I think there's a lot of people too that are seeking validation. And I almost wonder, is that truly in alignment with who you are, or are you doing this for validation, like kind of like the peacock who's putting his feathers up, like, and naturally we want to find a mate, we want to feel attractive, that is basic human nature. But when people are kind of taking on this, women should be soft and be non-confrontational and just kind of be the yes woman, and those are the women that are picked, versus the man who should be the provider and who should do this. And I'm all for certain, like if I go on a date, do I prefer the man to pay? Yes, I
Yeah.
do.
Yeah, I
But
agree.
am I open to what those roles look like in the relationship, and having someone just show up naturally who they are, and that works for us? Great. Yes, because I don't conform to gender roles, because just like you said, evolution has it is like just gone from 0 to 60 within 100, 200 years. We weren't playing this game 200 years ago. You had to date someone who was in your village. Now I can date someone who's in fucking Spain if I want to, which I don't know, that hasn't happened yet either, but just saying, our options are so much that I think that people are getting it wrong, in my opinion. I do want to go back to the tantra, I think you said. I would like you to define that a little bit. For someone who's listening and who has never heard of that, break it down like I'm a high schooler. What exactly is that? And where does someone start if they're interested in it?
Yeah, so tantra is a huge umbrella term, and it's Asian practices, goes back thousands of years. And to me, like how I define tantra is willingness to be comfortable in the mess. That's what tantra truly is. It's beautiful because it's more beautiful moments than anything. But essentially, it's about vulnerability, chaos, and just being a person in life. You know, like as things come up, feelings, emotions, we deal with them. We don't suppress them. And anything that comes up is also a beautiful expression of who we are, who I am, who you are, and without judgment. It's the biggest thing. I remember one of my trainings with the Rinpoche from the Bhutan. Um, I remember I went to this experience that he was holding with some of his brothers from the monastery. And I thought I was going to go there and learn like sexual secrets and learn all these new cool tricks on how to pleasure a woman and like all this stuff. And when we got there, like dude had us doing literally 3 sets of 108 prostrations every day. And prostrations are just like, I call them burpees. I call Buddha burpees. It's like you go up, you pray, you down with your knees, put your head to the floor, you come back up, literally with your mala beads. You're just doing this constantly, constantly, constantly. And I remember being there, breaking down, sore as hell, got blisters on my knees, got pimples breaking out of my forehead from touching the floor like multiple times of 108 a day. And I remember being there just like broken down. And I'm like, what is this? Like this dude, like, what's he teaching me? And then by day 14, I remember like he walked in as I was doing this and he was like, you feel that? And I was just sitting there after I did it. And I was just like, no. And then something hit me and I was just like, and I was like, oh, the truest pleasure is peace. That's literally what came into me. And I was like, I get it now. It's not about just having sex. It's not about just all these things. It's like peace is the ultimate pleasure. And I get it. And what brings peace is discipline. What brings pleasure is discipline. And that's what he taught me. My willingness to pray to deities and to go up and down and put my 6'2", 260-pound body on the ground and pray every single day, multiple times a day. That's what devotion is. So for me, when we're talking about Tantra, it's devotion, it's discipline, it's having an innocent heart, it's non-judgment, it's all encompassing.
Peace is the ultimate pleasure. That is going to be my affirmation. I'm going to stick that on my wall, because like I'm going to do that mirror exercise and I'm going to put that on a piece of paper. Peace is the ultimate pleasure, because that is the truth. And I would rather be in my peace and be completely by myself if necessary to have that peace and not have that rocked. But I think that a lot of us strive to have peace in our relationships. And I think that they can take a lot of nuggets of wisdom from our conversation
Yeah,
to hopefully have that peace.
and think about the moments, like whether it be, let's um, say you're with somebody you truly love, and let's say the moment after sex, after romance, making love. there's like a moment there where everything just like simmering, and it's like that sigh, that exhale, that's peace. Let's say you just had the biggest belly laughs with somebody you love, and then there's the moment when it starts simmering. It's like, you know. And let's say you're a mom and you're with your child, and there's this part that's just like hilarious, and then like you're like, that's my kid. You know, these little blips of moment of peace. This is what life is about, you know, and no matter what form it comes in, whether it's lovemaking, whether it's laughing, whether it's creating art, like we're searching for that little moment of that sigh, because peace is the thing that we ultimately want in our hearts. The people in this world who bring a lot of chaos to other people, that's happening overseas now, it's like in their, in my judgment, distorted mind, what they're doing is going to bring a sense of peace to who they are, even though it's not. It's causing a lot of calamity. But they're doing something in hopes for peace within their lives or in their minds. So I feel everybody is motivated to experience some kind of peace in some kind of way.
I also would add to that that when you're in the moments of those peace, how does it feel in your body? And really take that as a guiding point, right? Like as a map on when you're making decisions, when you're asking yourself, is this the right relationship? How does it feel in your body? Does it feel aligned like how you do in those peaceful moments? Or does it feel stuck and icky and gross when you feel confused and when it's not for you? How would you, or what advice would you give to those that are listening? And what advice would you give to yourself, knowing everything that you've learned about this, for those that want to find peace?
Hmm. Slow down is the first thing. Like, you don't have to do everything at once. Everything will get done. And if it doesn't get done, it doesn't get done. But slowing down, because if we're in a constant state of being frantic, we can't experience peace through that distortion. We just can't. So I would say slowing down. Sometimes slowing down and how it can look in an applicable sense is just literally setting several alarms on your phone throughout the day, like random alarms. Set them out through the day, and like your alarm title says, take 5 deep breaths in through the nose, out through the mouth. Slow down, like you're like be here. I was just having a talk with one of my friend the other day. It's like in that conversation, it's I'm 37. I graduated high school when I was 18, and it's about to be my 20-year anniversary for high school. And I'm sitting here like, yo, where did life go? You know, like where did life go? And at this stage of my life, I'm like, nah, I'm gonna be taking these pauses because life is moving too fast. I need to pause more. And so I say slowing down is one of the biggest things to literally start bringing in and harnessing and creating, cultivating peace within one's life. Because if we're constantly go, 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 it's like you're gonna miss it. You're gonna miss everything. And there's many more tools I can give, but I feel that's the biggest one, is to literally slow down. And if you got to train yourself, even when, let's say, we're all touching stuff, like we're touching doorknobs, we're touching car door handles, we're touching, if we go to the gym, barbells and stuff, and all this stuff. You can train yourself whenever you touch a handle, take a deep breath. You're going to the bathroom, open the door, leaving the bathroom. Think about if we do that all the time, we're slowing down and creating this sense of presence within our lives. I feel that is one of the biggest game changers in the realms of harnessing peace within one's life.
Man, listen, I will up this morbidity of, I literally will be the type of person to think I have about 40 more birthdays if I'm lucky. So talk about like time is flying by. That's because I have a lot of Scorpio energy, and I'm a double Capricorn. So I'm like, let's go, 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 go. Let's work, work, work. I want the money. And sometimes I have to remind myself, slow the fuck down. Like literally slow down and be mindful and enjoy the present, because you will never be as young as you are right now. And I try to really remind myself of that, because it can get really easy to get caught up in the chaos, especially doing the work that we do, working with other people, we're running businesses, and it catches up. It moves very quickly. So I will take that and really try to implement that in my daily life. And I just want to thank you for the work that you do. It's so important. It's really important that we have men in the healing space, because there's a lot of stigma with men's healing. There's a lot of stigma with vulnerability. And it's really important that we have those role models like you and Preston and Garen and everybody who's in this space of healing. So thank you for doing what you do, and thank you for what you do behind the scenes too, because I know that you're doing other things as well. I would love for people to be able to find you. I'm going to link all your socials and your website, but tell me a little bit about what you have going on right now, some of your retreats, so people know where to find you.
Yeah, I bring people into the Amazon rainforest, into the Ecuadorian Andes. I live here in Ecuador. I live in the Andes now. And Tuesday, we're going into the jungle for this beautiful experience. It includes plant medicines and just a lot of tobacco and being in the Amazon rainforest off the grid. Like, you've got to fly into a machete cut runway that the tires slip out when you land. It's wild. That, and I'm really working deeply with my cacao project. A big part of my work is sustainability of the cocoa industry and bridging it between West Africa and Latin America, because cacao originates here in Ecuador, in this region, and through colonization, it made its way to West Africa, where 70% of the world's chocolate comes from West Africa. And it has a lot of child labor and this and that unfair stuff, like terrible, similar to cobalt, the industry. So the project that I'm working on is based here in Ecuador. So I create experiences around going to the chakras, as they call them, which are the farms here in Ecuador, so we can see how cacao is grown, cultivated. We go into the jungle for ecotourism, working with my indigenous friends in the selva. So we're doing several things, and also I'm currently filming a docuseries with one of my really really good friends, who's an actor, and we're going around actually asking the question about men's mental health and just mental health in general, and how different indigenous cultures approach healing from a mental health standpoint. So there's several things going down, and but I do most of my work from Instagram. So at Brenden Durell, you can come find me on my website, brendendurell.com.
I love that. Thank you, Brendan, for coming on the show.
Thank you so much.